Hello, nerds, geeks, and all variants in between. I'm Tony Dine, and this is Of Nerds and Geeks, pop culture from a certain point of view. Today, we'll be talking about anime, something that has been around since the 1960s. Me and Vinnie are going to talk a little bit about anime, and then we're going to break down our top 10. But as we were recording it, we realized the list was so long and we were talking so much about it, we decided to split it up into two parts, possibly a third. More on that in a moment. So, like I said, we'll be talking a little bit about it, break down our list, and then hopefully do a part 2. Hopefully, you'll put your top 10 down in the comment section. Then we'll make a part 3 where we will discuss those animes and find some way to compile them into a top 10 of their own. Enjoy! Hello, and here I am. I'm here with Vince Perone, and we're here to talk about anime. All things anime, well, as far as we can reconcile it. So how you doing, Vinny?
Can't complain and hanging in there. Actually been waiting to do this episode for a long time, so glad to be here. Oh, yeah. We're probably going to need like a 3-parter for this one.
Do you know where anime started?
I'm going to say Japan, but I don't know if that's true or not.
It's true. It's true. 1960.
Wow, I didn't know it was around that long.
Yeah, the TV show called Astro Boy, made by Suma Tezuka. He's credited with being the godfather of anime.
Oh, I've seen that show. I didn't know that was one of the first animes. That you mean the first anime ever?
Technically not the first, but the first that gives it the modern sense of what we know anime to look like today.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. I haven't watched Astro Boy in a long time, but I know that's an old school. The animation kind of reminded me of anime Mickey Mouse. You know, like the whistling with everything. It was in black and white.
Steamboat Willie. Yeah, as a matter of fact, some historians believe that anime got its influence from things like Walt Disney plus Betty Boop.
Oh, that's kind of cool. It makes sense.
So the Betty Boop had the large eyes, and the Japanese are very much into expression. So when they saw this and combined it with a little bit of the Disney thing, which you just picked up from Astro Boy, you kind of get anime. Although it's not confirmed, that's just their theory right now that I understand.
You probably never get the real answer because there's so many different theories out there.
Yeah, it's way too many variables to really know the truth, you know. But
right.
But yeah, the after that, Astro Boy was in color. Then after that, they had a colorized one, 1965, something the Lion. I forgot the name of it. For the kiddies, it was called Battle of the Planets, but it was a repurposed version of the Japanese Gatchaman. If you're familiar with that one. Gatchaman is a group of 5 teenage mutant superheroes. They're kind of genetically altered. You have Mark, Kia, Princess Tiny, and I'm going to shoot myself. I don't remember the other guy's name now. It's killing me. I want to say David, but I don't think that's right. Anyways, it was ultra violent for the time. I think it came out in the late 70s. I mean, it was one of the first animes that showed guts blowing out of people's stuff and bullets. And their main villains, Zorka. Oh my God, it's been so long since I've seen it. Zoltan, I think his name was. Zoltan was actually a hermaphrodite.
Oh, wow.
He had male and female parts. So one of the points, he kidnaps one of the Gotchmen, shoots him several times, waits for him to heal, then shoots him again, and then rapes him. Just, because he can.
Oh, boy. Just for happies and hots.
Yeah, so when they brought it to America, they introduced a new character called Seven Zark 7, who never interacted with the team, but he would talk to the audience and give the team their missions. This way, they had a reason why they can cut out all the graphic gore and violence and still come up with an episode length of entertainment.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I noticed it. It's weird the way mainstream anime is, like, over the time, like, it was geared more towards kids, because I think when it came to America or Western audience, they're like, oh, this is just cartoons. And I'm like, this is not... Cartoons are not just for kids, and I guess that's where that stigma comes from, where you're like, oh, Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny, those are cartoons. What's the difference? These are just Japanese cartoons. I'm like, some of them could be mature themed too, so it stinks that got a label for such a long time.
But if you think about it, some of the most popular ones are Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon. They are aimed at kids or redirected at kids in America, I should say. But
right.
Anime has a huge swath of genres that they've covered over the years, as I'm sure you've noticed.
Yeah, to be honest, the ones I'm always shocked of are the ones that are like sports anime, because I'm used to like martial arts or robots or sci-fi, and people are like, oh, did you see this volleyball anime or this basketball anime? I'm like, there's an anime on basketball? Like, that's just cool to think that it just expands to different, not just one-sided, it just expands. to everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, 'cause they do. They also do like there's a huge romance section of anime, and not just romance for like boy and girl. There's boy and boy, girl and girl, that sort of thing too. And then there's the sports one, like you mentioned. Then there's the God, I just had it in my head. There's, oh, well, I guess cars are still sports, so never mind. But yeah, horror, science fiction, fantasy, history.
Right.
Um, it's just limitless, and they just don't even bother to take a breath before they decide to do the next one, which I think is brilliant. And it's weird because over
Right.
there, anime is on prime time. That's their prime time entertainment. You know
Yeah,
what I
of
mean?
course, because that's where it's from, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
That's why we always have to wait. We're like, oh, wait for the new episode. And Japan's like, haha, we've seen it already.
exactly. I don't know how late we get it because a lot of times they have to go through the process of getting the rights, then dubbing it over, and then make sure that the content is appropriate for American viewers. Although actually that's less of a thing in the last 20 years actually, 'cause they just throw it on streaming like Crunchyroll or some other streaming service, and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you get it, whatever, as long as you don't mind, the subtitles.
Yeah, exactly. I know I asked each of us to make a list of our top 10 anime, which I know probably wasn't easy because probably seen so many. I mean, between the
Yeah.
80s, the last actually most current anime I think was either Attack on Titan or My Hero Academia. I don't know.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
one of the last two I watched, but I haven't really watched a lot in the last 10 years. I will be honest. But so yeah, I've got 40 some odd years of anime to sift through in my brain. You probably got about like what 20, 25 years of anime.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Even when I sent you the list, I was like, I don't know. Let me reach out. I was like, nah, just send it. Just send it. That's why I said, oh wait, there's a number 11. Oh wait, there's this. Oh wait, the movie. Like it's too much
Yeah,
nostalgia.
I had a hard time trying to sort my number one from number 10. So I was like, yeah, I'll just make a list and just let it lie, not necessarily in any particular order. Yeah, I
Right.
enjoyed them that much. And yeah, I don't know. Did you find you had a genre?
Yeah, so I've been growing up my whole life. I don't know. I've never been like a jock person, but I've been really, really big into martial arts. So I noticed, pardon anybody that watches genre, but like slice of life anime or like high school drama and stuff. I don't really watch those. I like more martial arts tournaments, like God of High School would be one, or I think it's Megalo Boxing, like stuff that had Baki. I love martial because I'm a big fan of martial arts. So when I watch it in anime, it's always intriguing to
Right.
me.
Okay, I'm just curious. Um, let's see. And then the last thing before we hit our list too, I want to talk on too is that you really can't talk about anime without talking about something seminal like Akira. Not just because it's a movie, just because of the techniques used and the design and the motorcycles and all the other tech designs they do is just mind blowing, and the story was phenomenal too.
Didn't they do a rewrite of the story, if I'm not mistaken? I thought they changed it at some point. I don't know if it was with the comic or something. I thought they changed it up, but I could be mistaken.
They may have done it in the manga, but I'm not aware of any such thing. But if you know in the comments, please anime fans want to know,
Yeah.
and we're anime fans, so we want to know.
Yeah, I'm
So I thought
curious
it'd be
for
fun
sure.
to go one for one and just talk about, we go down our list and just talk a little bit about what we like. And this way, anybody watching, you want to give us your top 10 in the comments, do so. We're kind of curious because maybe we can expose you to something new and maybe you can expose us to something new. And I think that's kind of the whole point of this channel, isn't it? Sharing.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. Teamwork
And
makes
also,
the
guys,
dream
also just
work.
to let you guys know, just because these are our top 10, that doesn't mean all the other animes we don't enjoy either. These are just some that maybe hold a little more sentimental value compared to the other ones we watch. So if your anime doesn't show up on the list, don't be upset.
Exactly. That's a good disclaimer to put on there first. All right, so why don't you go first? What's your first on your list? Not necessarily in any order, I assume.
Right. Well, to be honest, I was able to try to figure out. So my very first favorite anime, it was a toss up. It actually was a tie between my second and first, but I have to say my first one is actually newer anime called King and Ashura, and that goes back to my statement before. It's one of my favorite animes because it's martial arts based, but the thing I liked more about the most compared animes that people might pick as their number one. I loved it that each character, whether they were a good guy or a bad guy, they got a backstory of their martial arts style to give you a brief history on that, and also why the character who's using this martial arts style or practitioner, what makes him more advanced or skilled compared to the other guy using the same skills as him.
Okay, that's
And it
neat.
was one of the first animes I saw that had both 2D and 3D animation. So a lot of times the fights were 3D, but when they would do like the crowds and stuff like that, it'd always be like 2D. So I always thought that was a cool mix.
Gotcha. And if you happen to know, I should have mentioned, if you happen to know the year or roughly an idea of when it came out, that'd be good
Yeah, so
too.
I believe it came out 2018 or 2019. The anime, it came out on Netflix. But I know the manga came out, I believe, like 2010 or 2012. Again, guys, if we're missing any of the dates, feel free to correct us. We won't be
That's what
upset.
I said,
But
within approximation, yeah.
yeah, so it's been around for a couple years. And I was disappointed because it kept getting pushed off because of COVID and everything. But now, later on this year, October, November, they're going to have a third season, which I'm actually super excited.
Oh, that's great. Still going then. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's good. It's
So
it's good for me because I love. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
it's okay. My first pick is Ergo Proxy, roughly about 1997, 98 maybe. Have you ever heard of that one?
What is it called?
Ergo Proxy.
No, I never heard of that.
Basically, it takes place in a dystopian future where the Earth has been devastated and people live in domes. And we follow this one character. Her name is Rial. She's sort of like, uh, she's kind of like it's very Metropolis in that sense that she's kind of like the boss's daughter, for lack of a better word. And there's
Okay.
at the time there's a virus going on called the Conquito virus, where all the droids and the robots are gaining consciousness, and they end up either killing people or killing themselves. And she's trying to
Oh
get to
wow.
the bottom of it. But what's really neat about it is that as the story gets on, it gets more and more complex. It's more deeper, and you find out it's not the people ruling the cities that are ruling. There actually be things called proxies, which are sort of like these monsters that can have human form, but also not. But then, as you find out about the proxies, you find out actually they were actually supposed to be the safe guardians of all these domes that were left behind on Earth, because there's actually a bunch of humans in our orbital space station. But something went wrong, and the proxies started turning on it. I mean, it gets so deep,
Oh, that's
so
cool.
deep. And the main reason I love this thing is the style is so cyberpunk, and slick, and so beautifully done. The music is absolutely wonderful. The music, the imagery, and the artwork is all just blend together so well for a beautiful science fiction piece.
Oh,
That's
that's
why I
awesome.
like that. So if you haven't watched it, watch it. If you've watched it, you know what I'm talking about. And the opening song is kick ass too.
That's cool.
All right, what's your next one?
So my number two is actually used to be my number one until Kengan Ashura came out. It's called Outlaw Star. It came out in 1997 or 1998, I believe. So a lot of
I've heard
people,
that.
yeah, a lot of people don't know about the anime because unfortunately it got overshadowed by Cowboy Bebop, who came out literally the next year after. So it's the same premise, which is why a lot of people get confused because Outlaw Star also takes place in space. But the difference is instead of them being mercenaries, they're pirates, which I think is a cool concept. And they're going to try to find like this special it's kind of like One Piece where they're trying to find like this special object in the universe. And the reason why I like it, it's got like that cyberpunk feel, but they treat like they're about like advanced science and stuff, but they also deal with magic. So the main character, he has a special gun called a caster gun, and he goes to these mages, and each mage gives him a special bullet that has a different number, like 8, 12, 10. And when he
Oh,
shoots them,
that's
they have
cool.
different
Yeah,
things. And the
creates different
strongest
properties.
one, no spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it, even though it came out in 1997, 98, that it's like a rare one. And when he shoots it out, it makes a giant black hole and just sucks everything in. So I think that's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that one. Um, my next one is called "Oh My Goddess," and it's been a long running manga since I don't know, like the '80s, I think. But there have been, I think, three OVAs, three animes. And my favorite one today is the 2005 version. It's the most polished version. So basically, you might like this because this is going to sound a lot like The Realm. This
Oh,
is one of
okay.
my influences for The Realm. For those of you who don't know, it's a movie. So basically, there's a this little little not boy, a teenager who's living alone, and one day he goes to make a phone call and he accidentally calls the goddess hotline, and they receive it. And he goes, "Hey, I need help." So they send down a character named Belle Dandy, and so she's there to fulfill his wish. And he's like, I don't know how the circus got crossed, but you live here. I don't know. And so she has to stay there until she fulfills his heart's desire. But as you go along, more people from the goddess hotline start showing up, including Erd, which is her older sister. She's like a vixen type, and then Healed. I can never say her name right. Just think 5-2. You're done.
Oh, wow.
Basically 5-2. So they go on a series of adventures, but it's basically it's like slice of life with magic and romance, but the goddesses get into battles with other demons and stuff along the way, which is really makes it a nice blend of romance, slice of life, and magic all mixed into one. Which is why I
Oh,
like
that's
it.
cool.
Long time reader too.
Now, does the main character have any powers or anything, or he's just a normal human and the girls fight for him?
He for your reference, he's basically Hiroshi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Annika would be like the goddess coming down, to do all that stuff. Except Annika kicks ass, and Belle Dandy does, but Belle Dandy's like a goddess, so it's different.
Right. I mean, just so you guys know, just because a protagonist isn't necessarily like a fighter or anything like that, doesn't make them useless at all in the story.
Correct. They add a lot of
Sometimes usually
emotional
the
and
heart that pulls everyone together.
yeah, and a lot of times they can provide a lot of the heart, the soul, and the what do you call it? The inspiration for the other characters to keep on fighting or doing what they need to do. Very important. What you got next?
So the third one I'm actually representing it right now. It's called Demon Slayer. I'm sure a lot of people have heard it. I think it came
Oh,
out
sure.
the manga came out, I believe, 2010. It's very new anime. It's what they call new age or new gen anime.
Yep.
I just think the storyline is really good, and I'm sorry for a lot of animes out there, but the studio, I think it's Nappa or whatever studio that does the anime, they have a seriously high budget because every season the animation and the fights just look awesome. I like the story. I mean, I I just like that stuff. Like it's like demon hunting, but back in like medieval times. I kind of think it's cool, like feudal Japan. So I mean, that's kind of cool. And there's like these elite samurai, I guess you would say, that are going on the hunt. It's just a cool concept to me. I mean, the fight scenes are amazing. The characters are pretty likable and noticeable. My favorite is the Sound Hashira Tengen. He's actually a ninja, and what he uses for swords, he actually uses nunchuck swords, which I think are kind of cool.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. And they have to fight the demon Muzan, who his only weakness is sunlight. So each of the demon slayer swords are made out of what's called Nichiren, and then that lore it's like um a metal that absorbs the sunlight, so they can hurt and cut demons down.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I like that. My next one, I want to say it's 2003 or 2010. I don't remember. It's called Elfen Lied.
Oh yeah, I've heard
I
that one before.
mean, it's basically like Stranger Things before Stranger Things, but a lot more violent,
Super violent.
super violent. But again, just got really great characters. I like the idea they're mixing the genetic science and experimentation with a person, and then in the manga it gets a little more wanky, but they didn't cover that in the cartoon. But so I won't cover that here. Um, but again, it's just like that. Got a slight bit of a romance to it, which I like, but it's also got, like I said, it's got that nice little bit of ultra violence, a little bit of science. It just kind of like helps balance everything out, especially with the character's innocent sort of alter ego, right? She has this
Yeah,
alter
right.
ego before she goes all crazy with her skin tentacles.
Yeah, which is funny to be honest. When I first watched the anime, till you watch it, I'm like, does she have like weird telekinesis power or whatever? And all of a sudden, they're like, no, it's just invisible hands you can't see. I'm like, that's even more fucked up. You're just getting decapitated by these invisible hands you can't see. That's pretty scary.
Exactly. But they never finished. They only did one season. They never did a second, which I was kind of disappointed about.
I wonder why.
Could have been budget. Could have been ratings. Could have been a lot of things. I don't know. Could have been the studio was trying to, and they just couldn't.
Yeah, it's a shame with a lot of, and not just anime, just a lot of things like when something you love or you're passionate about, and they just don't finish it, and you're left with your own.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
Yes.
how's it gonna end? I don't know. What you got next?
So now once it gets down to the more of the bottom, it's kind of like a mix up between. So it's probably not going to go off the same list I gave you. But my number 4 would have to probably be Dragon Ball Z. Now again, I know people are like, "Oh, that's such a," but I actually grew up. My generation, the '90s, we grew up with Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z. Now, well, where Sailor Moon isn't my favorite anime, I do have to admit that was probably the very first anime I watched because when I was younger, Saturday mornings, it would be Sailor Moon in the morning, then Dragon Ball Z, then either like Pizza Cats or Ronin Warriors, but always Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z always went hand in hand. So being a 6-year-old or 7-year-old, I'm like, oh, cool. What is up? They just wear like I wasn't like, oh, it's these girls running around. But yeah, I would say Dragon Ball Z because it's just something that's timeless. I mean, I grew up with it, and it's one of those animes that I watched as a kid, and even as an adult, I'm still watching it. Like, there's still more stuff coming out after all that time.
Right,
And
right.
I think so. Dragon Ball Z came out. There's Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and then GT Super. There's other spinoffs. But Dragon Ball, I believe, came out 85 or 87, and then Dragon Ball Z came out 91 or 93, one of the, in that time frame there. But growing up as a kid, I mean, that was the first anime I watched where like that's where the yelling phases come in, where you're just like with your friends, you're just like, I'm just gonna be stronger than you just by yelling, like all made me laugh. But I like the story, I like the action. I mean, he's an alien from
Yeah.
Earth, like
Well,
Superman, and he's fighting aliens. He's fighting against other aliens to not take over Earth. And there's humans that are all. It's just cool. It's a cool concept. And
no,
who
yeah.
didn't
I
want
mean,
to? I mean, my generation, who didn't want to turn into a Super Saiyan, a spiky-haired gold guy that can shoot energy beams out of their hands?
is that the whole Hadouken thing? Hadouken.
Yeah, but instead of Hadouken, it's a Kamehameha, so it's the energy beam instead of
Man,
just a
okay,
bloop.
that's it.
Yeah, instead of
Gotcha.
like a one ball, it's a beam.
Gotcha. Yeah, Dragon Ball Z has proved its popularity. I mean, it's lasted this long and still going, and so it's a good one. I haven't
I don't
watched
know if
it. I don't
anybody
watch
knew.
it, but I don't deny its popularity.
Did you know, fun fact, that Akira Toriyama, the guy who made Dragon Ball, he actually wanted to stop it way at the Frieza saga. That was like the second or third arc, and leave it at
Oh,
that. But
really?
because the studio was so, made so much money, he had to continue to write it. And that's where he is
Oh,
now.
I did
So I
not
would
know
like to
that.
know how that feels, like to have something that's your idea that you're like, I'm done writing it. Like, I'm happy with this ending. And you have other people like, nah, you got to make more money. And you're like, I guess I'll just do that then. You know what I mean? So I wonder
Yeah,
if he really feels like that's it. Like, is he like, oh, like I do it because I enjoy it, but I wish it ended back then and he could do other work maybe.
yeah. I don't wonder. Well, I suppose he could always hand it off if he really felt that way, right?
Yeah.
Go and do something else. But my next one is from the '80s again, because go figure. It's called Devil Hunter Yoko.
Yo, I love that show.
Buffy before Buffy.
Yeah, that definitely, I always thought that was cool.
Yeah, I always liked the protagonist. I thought she was great, and I love it in the second season she got a little sidekick there and everything. A little 5X2 type before her.
Right.
But yeah. So if you know Devil Hunter Yoko, give a shout out. It doesn't get a lot of love because they don't make it anymore.
Right.
What's your
You know
next
what's
one?
cool? There was a lot of anime back in the olden times. They had a lot of female protagonists where it took a while for like the Western audience to have it in their shows or cartoons and stuff like that. So I feel like you got to give anime credit where they were okay having a heroine be the hero instead of it being like always this guy, like the male protagonist. I always thought that was interesting.
True. I think the only downside from today's point of view was that usually the female character, one of the prerequisites that she had to induce a lot of male gazing.
Yeah, I guess that's
You know,
true.
he had to be a sexual figure as well as a heroic figure. It wasn't true of every anime, but a lot of them, Dirty Pair, Cutie Honey, even Double Hunter and stuff like that. But not every one of them, but a lot of them. But that was the time period too.
Yeah, of course.
What you got next?
So it goes into one of the top ones. One of my other favorites is actually excuse me, One Piece. So that's also still going on right now. I believe that came out in the 2000s, maybe 90s. I'm not really too sure. I just know it's one of the longest running animes of all time because it's still going on now. Like there's no ending. Um, I just like the intrigue. I mean, it's about pirates again. I love pirates. I love that theme. It's a giant world that's on water, and you eat these things called devil fruit, and the devil fruit, which there's thousands of them, and you just get random powers like stretch, you can control fire, you can control elements, you can turn into animals, you can just have objects. I just think it's a cool lure, and it's like I like the anime because the main characters, which are the main pirate crew, they're fighting and trying to be the strongest. They're not automatically the strongest, which I like anime like that. Instead of having the main character always be like at the top and just defeating everybody, I like that they get knocked down and then have to build themselves up. I like that. I like that aspect of it. Luffy's a very interesting protagonist. He's never really, I guess, wholehearted or mean. He's a very honorable person. Like he doesn't care what you are, as long as you're happy, you do the right thing. That's how he. And I like that stuff. I like leading a life like that. Like not everyone's a bad guy, not everyone's a good guy. Just
He's just
whatever
happy
makes
go
you happy, you
lucky.
just gotta right. And he's loyal to his friends and his crew, even if even if if somebody's doing something wrong, he sticks up for them, all to get the One Piece and be
Oh,
Pirate
nice.
King. That's what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen. I know Netflix is doing a series on them now too, which I heard is doing really well.
Which actually I've only watched one episode and it's very good. So compared to a lot of the other animes, live action, they said that Oda, the guy who wrote One Piece, is actually helping I don't know if he's co-directing or producing. He's also helping with the work. So I think that's awesome. Just like Robert Kirkman did with like Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. I think it's
Right.
the best idea to have the person who came up with the idea to tell you, to give you corrections or pointers on stuff like that to make their
Yeah,
idea come true.
exactly. 100%. We can skip my next one because we covered it at the beginning. Akira.
Oh, well, you can still cover it.
Well, we just kind of covered all the big parts. Neo Tokyo, motorcycles, big blobs, crazy superpowers, the military, dystopia. It's just amazing. But
Weren't they called espers though? That special group, they had like psychic powers and everything.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
ESP or
I don't know if you noticed
Espers.
the
Yeah.
80s had a theme of like cyberpunk futuristic, like, that was their theme.
Yeah, because it was just the whole cyberpunk thing was just emerging in the '80s. You know what I mean?
Right.
What you got next?
So next is gonna be I would have to say Bleach. So the reason why I like Bleach, I think it's a cool concept. So they're pretty much soul reapers, or if you think about it, they're like ghost police, which is kind of cool, and they fight like these, I guess, monstrous ghosts, or the hollows they call them, and they just have like a war with each other. And each Shinigami has their own sword, and their sword has a special name. And then they have what's called a Bankai, which is also a special ability or special form. So it's cool that the author was able to come up with so many different characters. And whether some of them are lame or some of them are really awesome, it's cool that each person, even if it's the same element, like somebody has ice and this person has ice, they're different.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
that's really cool to flesh people out. Even the main character, he might be the main character, but he always has to struggle, which I like that. I like the underdog trying to get onto the top, and I always like that. Everyone always underestimated him, and that's what's cool. His name is Ichigo. But my favorite
Yeah.
character is Hitsugaya or Hitsugi. I
I
think
have
it's
trouble with it
Hisugaya.
too.
So he if anybody knows, he's got like a tattoo on his face here, and he's got a number 69 on his eye. And what's cool about his Bankai is that it's 2 Reaper sights. So I just think it's cool. I like stuff like that. And I always seem to catch myself not always favoring the main character in a lot of animes. I always like the side characters. I feel like sometimes the main characters, not offending anyone, but I feel sometimes the main characters either too much plot armor or you gotta like them because they're the main character.
Well, also too, there's a lot, but you're not wrong. A lot of times the side characters have so many flaws to make the main character look good that you're actually more attracted to those flaws. Because like, what's this bumbling idiot going to do next? Because I'm really interested. As well, the hero's like, oh, hello, and well, the side character's got a great backstory, kind of flawed. It's like kind of more interested in them sometimes.
Right. I guess it makes you more relatable. Kind of like you always need the sidekick or the human character to relate to us to be like, wow, I could be this guy. I could be a human with gods and stuff like that, and I have to have their powers.
Exactly. Bleach also, by the way, Bleach made my runner-up list. So.
Oh, see?
Yeah. So
honorable mention. One, that's what we're gonna have to call it. Our honorable mention.
There you go.
My next one is
boom. My next one. There were 2 versions of it. One I think was in the early 2000s. The first one I think is in the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. But I like the original version. It's called Hellsing.
Oh no way! I love Hellsing. That's awesome. That's an awesome one.
Did you see both versions, or?
Yeah, I have actually. I have.
Yeah, I was just blown away by the first one. Just the treatment of vampires and the whole idea of the society and the whole like, oh, okay. And I think that one had Alucard, which is Dracula spelled backwards. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was a cool take though that he was hunting other vampires and he actually didn't like vampires, which I thought was kind of funny. It's almost like instead of being like a racist, he's a speciesist against his own kind. He's like, "Are you a vampire like me? I must kill you." I'm like, "But aren't you guys both vampires?"
Yeah, but it's definitely a fresh take for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Plus, like it was like Nazi Germany and stuff. It was just a cool take. It was just pretty awesome.
That's one thing about that's one of the nice thing about anime is that they're always able to sprinkle in these different sort of fabrics to kind of create something new out of it, right? If you have a little bit of Western history in there, we'll throw a little gangsters in there too. We'll just mask it as bandits or something, but you still get the flavor so we could genre match. They were genre mashing long before we were.
Yeah, right. That's just how it is. I mean, they set the trends. Because, I mean, you think about it, anime is just another version of fantasy worlds, if you really think about it. Like, instead of being medieval dragons, you're having robots and cyborgs and aliens and monsters. It's the same thing.
I agree. I have a thought.
Sure.
Let's do another episode of this. We'll save the other half of our list for the next episode.
Yeah, it sounds great. So, guys, if you want to stay tuned for part 2, make sure you tune in next time.
That's right. I think that'd be fun. But also too, like with the buried animes that we both listed in our first half, again, it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning about how buried the genre and the stories are, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's one of the things that always mystifies, that intrigues me about anime. It's not, I mean, I love the colors, I love the styles, I love a lot of the texturing that's done, but also too, I just love their genre mashing, that they're not afraid,
Right. Plus, if you think about it, I mean, there's so much different types of anime that you and I can list our 10 and not even scratch the surface. And yet, there's literally anime for any type. Oh, you don't like martial arts? What about slice of life? What about drama, horror? There's so many different genres that I feel if people gave it a chance and got past maybe the thing of like, oh, it's a cartoon for kids, I feel a lot of people would find stuff that are like I said, sporting one. There's so many anime, so many.
It's true, and it's hard to. Sometimes it's hard to believe, especially being so far away, that a lot of manga versions where anime spawned from was actually a result of what happened during World War II.
See, I never know that. That's pretty interesting.
Well, after bombing Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Japan coming out of the rubble, they decided to make their own nuclear-powered hero named Astro Boy.
See, that's how it starts.
Like that. Yeah.
Just like Superman, see, like he started out, he was from a poor Jewish people or whatever, and then all of a sudden they made him, he's a superhero and stuff.
exactly. You're getting it. Exactly. So, but yeah, so
Everyone's got
we're
to
going to
start
hold off.
somewhere.
Absolutely. We're going to hold off on the second half for our list, fans and viewers, or nerds and geeks. And we're going to do a second episode. Hope we can get that done in a couple of weeks, but that'll be fun. But please leave comments down below if you have your own list, or if you have any comments on our list so far, or even if you want to have fun and make a prediction on giving me and Vinny and our tights. What do you think our second half of our list is going to look like? I would really like to see that.
Me too.
Absolutely. So until next time, Vinny.
Have a good one, guys. This is.
We hope you enjoyed the anime panel with me and Vinny. Hopefully part 2 will come soon. In the meantime, please hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you can know when future videos are coming. Also, don't forget to check out my merch channel, where you can find a bunch of cool swag with artwork by yours truly. In the meantime, stay cool, stay happy, and watch anime.